Hey there, and welcome to the Confident Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Brooks. Join me as I sit down and chat with co-hosts, friends, and carefully curated guests and talk about all the things that empower you to become your best and most confident self. So, let's get started. Welcome back. So today we have with us Alexandria Ott, founder and CEO of Chrome City Creative, an all-women team dedicated to creating memorable moments for brands in hospitality, design, and the arts, a role she has excelled in for the past decade. She is also the co-founder of The Blank Table, an underground dinner series that showcases up-and-coming chefs and mixologists to a sold-out crowd. And most recently, she has launched her own podcast, Wild and Wise. So welcome, Alex.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. My name is Alex. I own two companies at the moment. I have Chrome City Creative Studio, which I founded at the age of 28 years old in Chicago when I was living there. It is a very multifaceted agency that does a lot of brand storytelling, brand strategy. We really come alongside our clients who range from women-owned brands to designers to restaurateurs, and become an extension of project management, strategy, content creation, and event production for them. And then my second company that I started once I moved back to California in 2018 is called The Blank Table. It's an underground dinner series where you don't know the location until the day before, and you don't find out what you're eating until you arrive. We partnered this season with other local pop-ups. So we ourselves are a pop-up series, but this season we found other incredible pop-ups so that we could really collaborate, create community around cuisine, and really start to redefine the culture of San Diego when it comes to the culinary arts and sort of curated cultural experiences. We've had 3 dinners, and it's a great joy and honor to be able to produce alongside my incredible team.
That is amazing. Here I am over in Columbus, Ohio, just living vicariously through you in sunny San Diego with all these cool things you have going on. So who knows, maybe that could be an expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having spent so much time around chefs in Chicago, and you have to think like life is so different there in the way of it's a much older city. So the craft of the culinary arts has been practiced and exemplified for a lot longer than maybe it has out here in San Diego. It's hard because quite literally it's the best weather in the entire country. We want to be outside. We want to be on our bicycles in the ocean. And while that life to so many people who live in cold cities sounds so ideal, what we lack is this refinement of our craft, this ability to reflect and sit down and be stuck inside and read books. Like so many beautiful and hard but beautiful things happened to me during those cold seasons where I was able to slow down without guilt. And I was able to make, nutritious soups and just go slow and sleep and nap and dream and plan and create. And sometimes it feels like in this beautiful weather, if I'm watching TV on a sunny day, I feel like a real piece of shit.
Oh, I can relate to that from that perspective too, because I think when I go to San Diego, I mean, obviously I'm there for short terms and it's like, I'm just soaking up the sun as much as possible. But to your point, what I found in my life is that I flow with these seasons. It's those seasons of time to slow down, rest, recover,
Yes.
to the spring and the renewal, to the summer of thriving and finding so much joy, being outside in the collective nature, to the hibernation period where we really do turn inwards and our body and our cells start to regenerate and grow. And so I've always attuned my rhythm and my schedules to the 4 seasons, but man, I'm just a person of weather and seasons as well. But yeah, I hadn't really looked at it from that perspective. But to your point, I'd be outside like, why am I inside?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first moved back to San Diego, I had a few people be like, chill, slow down, because I was just used to the like hardcore, blue collar, hardworking, go, go, go of the big city life in a cold city where people were very serious about the work they did. And I think that what I miss the most is that rhythmic of, there's nothing better than fall and you're going to like little get togethers for the football season or whatever it may be. And then you're locked down inside. And if you think about some of the best authors of all time, I would say 99% of them were writing holed up in some cabin in a snowy place. And that's where sadness is able to come through. But that's where I think some of the greatest reflection and growth comes from. And while I definitely struggled a little bit with my mental health in those months, I remember always by like my birthday's March 7th. And right around that time, I was always feeling like, get me the hell out of this cold place. But it also, when the sun comes out or when you see that first flower bloom through the tulip coming through the cement, it's just like this revival of being reminded that things can come alive again and a reminder to yourself that things can come alive again. I will say life is a lot softer here. It holds my soul in a way that I feel very safe and satisfied. And there's an ease to the California living that is sort of irreplaceable. So both kind of have their own excitement, but nonetheless, being able to be in Chicago and seeing those chefs is what really allowed me to come back to San Diego and revive or create a dinner series that really was intentional and focused on the craft of what these chefs are doing. And it's an honor because there's no better way to bring people together than over a meal.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's something that is the one thing that brings everybody to the table. How long have you been in San Diego?
So I moved back here in 2018. I started Chrome City in Chicago in 2014. And then in 2016, I found out that I was pregnant with my first child, Henry. He's 8 years old now. I was definitely knew from the jump that I was going to be a single mom and just felt very connected to his soul. And I was, of course, advised like, you're at the peak of your career. You own this huge agency in Chicago. Are you sure you want to do this? But I can't explain it other than I felt deeply connected to his energy and his spirit and decided to have a baby as a single mom. I was 30 years old. And after about a year and a half of us being together, just the two of us, I felt like the best choice for his future and for mine was to start a second wing of the company out here in California so I could be close to family. My mother is just an incredible support for our family and spends so much time with my children. I now have two. I since then had a daughter named Lennon. So I have two kids and came back in 2018 and had to really start from scratch again. I had built something very magnificent in Chicago and it took me, 5, 6, 7 years to build it. And then I had to sort of let it go a little bit, come back here, start building this. And then in 2020, everything flatlined. And after things started to open again, that's where I really put the gas pedal to the metal in San Diego. And we've been able to build what I believe is a more substantial energy and recognition and business than I ever even had in Chicago. So I feel proud of that.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love the story behind it because it's no matter what obstacles or where you were, the challenges you faced, there's that adversity and the resiliency to overcome with confidence. And I'm sure that each time you're up against a challenge, you're just like, I got this. And it just refines as you keep going. You have multiple businesses, multiple children, you are crushing it in multiple cities. So tell me how, I know that this is like that elusive question of how do you balance it all? So I'd love for
Yeah.
you to share some of the tips and strategies that work for you in the seasons. And we talked about the seasons from our 4 seasons, but being in a sunny season all year round. So I'd love for you to share some of your personal tips and strategies.
Sure. Well, I have to say all of this with the preface that I'm incredibly privileged that so much of the way that I'm able to make all of this work is because I have a lot of help that I'm able to have because of the money that I make. And therefore, not everyone is, I feel very lucky and that not everybody is able to get the help that they need as a parent or as a business owner the way that I have. I have, first and foremost, an absolutely dynamic team of women that work for me. So, Jenna and Gwen, in the 11 years that I've owned this agency, I've had a lot of different staff members from all different walks of life. This is the first time in my entire career of owning a business that I can go on vacation and everything is just fine, completely taken care of. If anything, they're holding me accountable. I really oversee the bigger client relationships and the strategy and the vision, but these girls are executing on that vision all day long. Both of their mothers were at an event that we just had last week, and I looked them both of their moms in their eye. And I said, "Thank you so much for giving birth to two women who have made my dreams come true because I can only dream and do so much. But to have a very solid team it's taken me 10 years to find." And we joke we're the dream team, but like they have so much respect for each other and for me. There's been times that I've run this company that I could feel that there wasn't a respect for me or what I do or what I provide for my team, and vice versa. A team is fully defined by its leader and their commitment to themselves and their commitment to the energy in the room. And was many years that my energy in the room, I wasn't bringing it. And therefore my team was a reflection of my own shortcomings. And I think right now I feel stronger than I ever have. So I think a big part of my success in balancing life and achieving what I've achieved is having a fantastic team. I really guided them and mentored them and, gave them heavy, heavy feedback in the beginning so that they could really learn. And now the feedback is pretty minimal. I think the girls impress me every single day. And then on the other side, when it comes to parenting, I co-parent really beautifully with my ex. He takes the kids for half the week and I have the kids for half the week. And that opened an entirely new door to self time for myself. I rode my bike to a Pilates class, came home, did some work, went to a yoga class, packed sweats, and popped over to a concert where you can kind of sit outside and grab a seat, and just plopped up with a blanket in my sweats and watched a concert and felt just overwhelmed with gratitude that I can do things like that. First and foremost, I have my health and my body that I'm even able to move it in the way of wellness, but also, to have a night off like that. I don't think most moms who are married would be able to take that kind of time for themselves. I'm very unapologetic about that, taking care of herself and making sure that she had her life, and an adult life is very, very important. It's a priority for me because if I feel like I'm bogged down by the motherhood, then I don't think I'll be a great mom. So great team, great support system. My mom watches the kids. I co-parent very well with my ex, and so he has them half the time. And then, I do fun things. I go out for drinks. I flirt. I'm going to a concert by myself. I'm going to yoga. I'm riding my bike. I have amazing friends who are big dreamers who see the world in big ways and would never diminish any of my dreams. I've surrounded myself with the right people, and it's a good life.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love how you've embodied the vision for your life through your dreams and cultivated everything that you have because you were crystal clear on what you wanted. And you were also
Mhm.
crystal clear on what you weren't going to settle for or what you didn't want. Recognizing that, and especially being in a leadership position, leading teams, leading businesses, and leading change and impact. So many women, like I said, I mean, we have how many hundreds of episodes. Everyone has a different take on it. And I think that's beautiful. And I love your version of it. It fits you. And so,
Mhm.
just like Alex said, this was what works for her. And I love that you preface this, that you are privileged. You don't, not many people have the life or lifestyle that you have, and you've recognized that. So I appreciate the honesty and the transparency there, because if the answer would have followed after without the preface, people might be
Yeah.
thinking, well, now how do they do it? I'm doing all that too. And how come I'm barely hanging on, or I'm sucking at
Yeah,
life?
I have like a string of babysitters that were interns because of my business that I can now, pay to babysit if I need to, but also truly like being a single parent and being separated from their father. It's just opened a totally different world because I have 3 nights that my soul, 4 nights that my sole focus is those kids and what we're doing, how we're feeling, and what's happening in this home and in our hearts. And that's all I focus on. And then I have 3 nights where I can work out, stay up late, eat snacks in bed, watch movies, get drunk with girlfriends. So it is a very different life, but it's summertime and it's feeling pretty fun.
I love it. And you just come back from a few vacations to boot, like just no big deal, right? I love that. And I love that for you because it's the sense of freedom that you essentially have created the life that you absolutely love. And I love that you have chosen this life for yourself and you're living it with full intention. And so when you talk about your dreams, and I want to pivot here for a moment to talk about entrepreneurship and business and all the things that go into it, because why I'm bringing it up now is because we've already set the tone. You have built a foundation from 10 plus years of probably some hustle and grinding and some burnout. And you're just wondering, long nights, ugly cries, is this even worth it? Like, why am I doing this? So I'd like
Yeah.
to pull the curtain back on some of the honesty behind the entrepreneurial journey, because it's not always easy peasy. And if those that are listening thinking, oh my gosh, how did she do this? It's not.
No. No. Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, you have to be in a place where the thought of ever working for somebody else scares you more than anything else. Like for me, that's not even an option. I produce events with chefs, with amazing cocktails where people are dressed up, feeling beautiful. There's photography, candles. I mean, all of the senses are consumed. And so if I'm staying up late picking out the napkin colors and making sure the photography is correct, to me, I would rather do that than watch TV. There's multiple parts to it, but one is I'm absolutely obsessed with what I do because it doesn't, feel like work. Like for example, we just did a walkthrough at one of the most iconic hotels in the country yesterday to help them plan their first ever fashion show with a major, major designer. And so I stayed up late, planning out a deck of the layout, where the VIP were going to sit, how much tickets are going to cost, what the financial strategy would be. But like, that doesn't feel like work to me because how much money can we get for an incredible luncheon where, VIPs are going to be sitting front row in this iconic hotel? And what is the journey of that day? And how do they arrive? And what does valet look like? And when they check in? And so my brain just gets to walk through like the most perfect and epic curated experience and what I would expect, because I am somebody who's sometimes not that fun to go out with because I'm constantly critiquing the way that other people are providing an experience, because, my obsession is with giving people a transformative experience with the brands that they encounter that we represent, or for the events that we produce. I want them to show up in awe, and that starts from the moment that they park their car to the moment they leave. And so I think for people that are starting their businesses or, wanting to know more about how I do it all, first and foremost, I'm obsessive with detail, and that's just how my brain works. So to me, it feels like the right fit. But also, I've made so many mistakes along the way that what you're seeing today is simply the product of a very long learned journey from, making mistakes and forgetting things for clients or dropping the ball. I mean, I've messed up so many times and I've had to pay the price and lost clients and lost opportunities, but each one stacks up to be a different chapter in the overall story that you get to close at a certain point and start a new book or a new chapter. That's where I'm at, where there is no fear of losing clients. And I'm not living in a space of fear. I'm living in a space of abundance. These clients love working with us, and we've chosen and love working with them. And we will sell out every event. It's just a matter of making sure we check every box. And so I'd say it took 10 years to get there. It took 10 years of anxiety attacks and losing team members and being in over my head financially and having too much staff and not enough money coming in and not knowing how I was going to make payroll. I mean, there was a lot of years of that, to understanding what's the right fit. Right now for us, it's having two full-time staff members, myself, and some freelancers. There was a time where we had 10 people on staff, and it was so overwhelming. If we lost one client, we wouldn't be able to make payroll. And so it's just learning and investing and saving. Like right now, if we lost all of our clients, I have enough in savings to take care of the company for at least 3 months, where that was never an option before. You just get smarter as time goes on, and you learn from every mistake, and you have to be obsessed and in love with what you do and what you're providing, whether it's a service or a product. If you don't believe in it, it's not going to work.
Oh, I love that. So many nuggets of advice and wisdom. And I feel that in this journey, that's exactly what it is. You have a lot of lessons, a lot of failures, but those failures are just things to say, okay, well, that didn't work. So we refine it, we pivot, we change. And so, not letting any of the past define you or limit you from propelling in the future because you have that clarity. And this one point that stood out, and I was like, oh, I think this is similar to maybe where I'm at as well. But when you say that you can walk into a place and have already envisioned it, and then because you love the work so much, it's like your brain has already walked through the end results. And so watching this come to fruition later, so when you have your dreams and you have this vision and you've closed your eyes and you can see everything play out, how would somebody listening, what advice would you give? And maybe that's something to do with like manifestation or
Yeah.
confidence or the preparation or the visionary works. And I assume you're similar to me is in terms of being a visionary leader. We see where we're going. It's crystal clear. And to your
Mhm.
point, it never feels like work because it feels fun and creative, and it's you're creating something out of nothing, or you're refining it and making it better with these little attention to details that otherwise might be a miss, but they're so important to you because you know the overall experience. You want that transformation. You want it to be so memorable. And I think that anyone in business should have that amount of pride and love and joy for their business because that's what gets you up every day. I'm always thinking, I'm always going, I'm always planning, preparing, looking at the details. I love what you do and the way that you articulated all of that because it deeply resonated with me and a lot of what I've experienced. But to bring it back to how could our listeners step into a role and a position in their life where they can elevate and operate at their highest potential?
It's not for everyone. Let's just be really honest. I don't expect everyone to be like that. I was just talking to a girlfriend of mine who owns an agency very similar to mine, although she is big deal. She's in multiple cities and she's far more successful than me. And I respect her so much. But she said, like, nobody really gives enough credit to those in number two, or no, everybody thinks they need to be in like seat A, like be the owner, be the visionary. But seat B, C, and D are equally as important. Not everyone needs to be in seat A, and it's a select few who should be and can handle it. And it's not to say that, C, B, C, and D couldn't handle it, but like those roles are equally as important. So I think for the listeners, I think so many people glamorize entrepreneurship or business ownership. And it's like she and I were joking, like, God, if we could just be in seat B for somebody else, we would be so stoked because you don't have to worry about so many different things. Recently, I've allowed myself to like not think about work. And because it's flowing so well and the girls have so much taken care of, I'm able to turn off. And it's the first time in 10 years that I'm not staying up thinking about. And don't get me wrong, I was in yoga yesterday being like, what if no, don't do that. We really should no, focus on right now. So I get it. But, I think there's two parts. One, acknowledging that you don't have to be in seat A. Like every seat A girl needs a seat B, D, and E girl right by their side. Like I could never do this the way that I do it at the precision that I do it without my team. Maybe one day they want to be an A girl. Maybe they never want to be an A girl. And that's perfectly fine. Those seats are equally as important to support the overall vision, right? So that's one. Two, I think if you do feel like in your soul, like you really are the visionary and the leader and the owner, like you have to also watch how you talk to yourself. And like, I used to think that being like so critical of myself was what made me successful. And maybe it did for a while, but I don't know. There's some tilting points. I'm 39 years old, about to be 40, and I've taken this age specifically of turning 39 very, very seriously, knowing that the decisions I make this year, the way that I speak to myself, the way that I'm living my life is going to set the tone for basically the next 40 years. I'm taking this year very seriously to set myself up so that walking into my 40th birthday next year, I am very clear on what I want, how I want my life to feel. You have to really envision, how do you want to feel in your life? And I think that so much of my own manifestation, whether it's with a future partner, in friendships, in business relationships. I think often not about the money, not about, anything other than how do I want to feel? I want to feel valued. I want to feel respected. I want to feel part of something bigger. And so my yeses and nos to people around me are really contingent on, is this going to align with the feeling of valued and respected? Is this aligning with the feeling of being part of something bigger? Is there enough time for me to deliver a product that I'm proud of? Have really changed the knob on rushing. I am planning for next year. I am not taking on anything, even like when people wanting to talk about stuff, I like to be intentional, but I have the privilege of being able to do that now that I've worked this hard. So I think it's important to build your portfolio of business. And I'd say for many years, I was taking anything I could get just to prove myself. But there's something magical that happens after 10 years of business ownership where I don't feel the need to prove myself. I'm attracting the right people and we're working at such a different level. I feel like I'm in a different playing field now. Envision how you want to feel, who you want to be around, the types of brands you want to work with, and kind of make sure that you have a North Star. Otherwise, you can get lost in the mix.
That's something I could definitely relate to. And, even in the season I'm in, it's like I had always thought that I had to be on the polished, perfected, the producer, the performer, the constant pressure and weight of it all. And even though I still have the gift of being in the visionary leadership position, in the season where I've just had to take a huge backseat to my own business. And it was the first time I was like, I don't want to be the driver anymore. And it was like, I said that like that. I never thought I would have said because I took such pride in that position because all I wanted to do was just drive and drive fast. And I just wanted to get stuff done as quickly as possible. But in the season of healing and grief and loss and rehabilitation, really from like everything as a rebuild, I recognize now that I am now prioritizing rest, which was the hardest thing for me because as that driven person, even pausing for a moment was like, come on, how long are we going to stay on the sidelines? So
Yeah.
prioritizing rest was a huge thing. And it brought so much confidence and clarity in the season that I was in because I didn't have to perform. I gave myself that permission to said, listen, you don't even have the energy or the clarity to even continue at this pace. You
Yeah.
have to rest and restore and replenish what was lost. So, to your A and B, oh my goodness, how much I've actually realized. I think I haven't gotten there as a full cycle yet, but I think I like B because
Yeah.
you're still at the helm, but yet there's a little bit off the hook of the pressure for you to be it all and do it all. And I
Mm.
think from all these decades of being in that role, my body and my mind and my spirit are just like shook. They're just like, we're burnt out. Like now I
Yeah.
understand, like I thought I was burned out on other occasions, but when everything internally just kaputs and it's not the engine that could anymore. And
Yeah.
that was a moment in my life where I'm just like, things are going to change. And I
Yeah.
had to start taking that, peeling back the layer and asking those questions. And one of your questions was so good because I think not many people, I think maybe it's not even taught enough because there's something to practice I just recently learned and you just doubled down on it was to ask how you want to feel. It's not about what you want to accomplish, get the things off your to-do list, what you want to achieve, how much money you want in your bank account. It's not about that. It's about how do you want to feel at the end of the day, at the end of the week, end of the month, and even at the end of your life. Like there's times where we don't want to get into a season of regret. So I appreciate this, I guess, just peeling back the layers and the curtain and having this honest conversation because I don't think it's talked enough about, especially in business, because it could feel so competitive. And
Mm.
I'm not in any competitive space. And I think
I've
I
never been
really,
competitive. I always say I'm super weird and out there and I have weird tattoos and I'm just I don't think I'm like anybody else. And I don't mean that in a nobody else is like me, but so I've never compared myself to other people because I just think I just do things a certain way. That's always
Yes.
been I'm kind of a loner. Like, I don't have a girl group. I have like different friends from different groups. And like,
Right.
so yeah, I've never been one to compare because nobody's walked in my shoes nor yours. So how could they know, And I think so many people do that. Oh my God, so many people do that. But it's like, that's where the internal work comes in because you have to know what your soul is all about, what makes you tick. It could be that you're just not even in the right industry or you're totally in the wrong job in a we're very lucky to live in a first world country with a ton of opportunity. The American dream, whether this country, is what it is today, it's still very much alive. And that means that you can start over or try something different or go from being like an owner of a small business to maybe somebody's personal assistant. If you just need that break and you're just like, I want to pick up somebody's laundry and drop their dog off at the groomer and just not have to be on. I'm all about like, take that time, take that step back. Like, I have no ego if I was really burnt out to just do something that would feed my soul. And I think instead of looking at Instagram or what other people are doing, you have to really tap into your own because it will never work when you're trying to replicate what other people are doing. I've never tried to replicate what somebody's doing. I've been inspired by other people, but I think that is such a key to my success is that I authentically listen to my own self. I don't look at my competition. I only look within and outside in the world when I'm on a walk and what other weird idea do I have for a client or what if we did this thing and I'm just constantly in my own mind, but I'm not really informed by the outside world. I'm informed by my own imagination. I'm informed by my soul and what I yearn for or experiences that I want to have that nobody's ever done before. And I think that's a kind of soul of a creative entrepreneur that, thrives.
Oh my gosh. 100%. And that's the same thing. Is like I've recognized that in myself, and it probably took quite some time because I think early on, even in business and entrepreneurship, you're told to go look outside. What are the competitors doing? Do your market research and all these things. And I remember I felt such resistance because I'm like, but I don't really care what they're doing. They're not going to do what I'm doing. And then you get the advice when you bring other people in because they're not in your business. So they're just bringing their own knowledge and experience and they're trying to help shape and shift what you've got. But I think it goes back to the clarity in who you are, that identity piece, right? So when you're crystal clear on who you are, what your gifts are, your talents, abilities, your skills, what makes you unique, the weirdness, right? And I think that that's something that you can definitely bring into your business because nobody's going to do it like you. What I see in this online space, this protective of IP, right? Your intellectual property. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, what if somebody takes my idea? What if they do? And I just found myself in a very similar situation where I'd shared a big vision, big dream of mine. And next thing I know, that person's actually executing it. And I was like, I didn't even know that was on your radar. So clearly I must have fed that to you. But now, look in hindsight, somebody had asked me, well, how does that make you feel? Like, what are you going to do about it? I said, doesn't matter because nobody can do what I am here to do. And those that are listening, all the noise in the outside world will only distract and derail you from your God given talent and your purpose and all the things that you are here for. So if you keep your eyes on your own paper, you're going to
Mhm.
succeed. You're going to accomplish your dream. So it's not necessarily some magic secret of how it comes about. It's all within. And Alex just said that. My whole thing is about everything is found within. Everything you want, need, desire is found within. If you allow
Mhm.
yourself to go to those spaces to dream it, to feel it, to experience it, and then you
Yeah.
start to live it and become it. So I love that you brought that up.
I also think that we look at other people as a way to avoid looking within. So you really have to understand that the obsession of looking at other people, comparing, thinking somebody stole something from you, that is really a distraction for not looking within. To try to unlock and uncover everything that I don't want to look at and just see it because it's usually not as bad as you think. Like Paulo Coelho, who's one of my favorite poets, once said, the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself. And it's like, the fear of looking within and knowing what's in there is worse than when you actually pull everything out and take a look at it, one at a time. And I'm really in a season right now of pulling each thing out within me that I've been avoiding or not taking care of or not looking at, and really nurturing myself in a way that I never have before. I'm a longtime party girl, and my body functioned just fine on cigarettes and coffee and hangovers for many, many years. And while I've become a mother, of course, that's not my life. But, over the last 6 months, I've just been working out more and taking supplements, just things that everybody does. But I've been doing them more, not because everybody else does, but because like I deserve to take good care of myself, and my future self will thank me for that. I recently also had a health issue that came out of burnout, severe eczema all over my face. It was a moment that shook me because it reminded me that our health is sort of like the most precious thing, and that if we're not really nurturing and giving back to ourselves, then we're not really good for anybody else. And so that's sort of been like a new season for me in unpacking what do I not want to look at. And one of those things was just simply like my health, and like what am I taking care of and how am I taking care of myself. I believe the opposite of that is abundance. People who operate from a place of fear, it's pervasive. I see it all the time everywhere. It's a scarcity mentality that they're going to take my thing, or you're out to get me. And I so don't live by that, and say and it's in work, friendships, or even dating. If there's that kind of energy, I cannot be around it. It's like my body can't tolerate it. I really function from a place of abundance. If there was 15 other people that had tattoos like me and were alternative and doing what I did, I would be like, hell yeah, let's all do it together. And it is the game changer, I think, for to thrive in business, is to have that abundant mentality that there's more than enough to go around for everybody.
Absolutely. And I think that trending buzzword still that does creep up every now and then, especially when it comes to confidence, is imposter syndrome. We can get so distracted by everything outside of us that we end up doubting who we are and what we're called and qualified for. So, yeah, I just love these deep talks and pulling back the
Yeah.
curtain, like I said, because I think we learn so much from each other in these conversations that we realize, oh, maybe things aren't as bad, or dang, things are actually better off than they are. And so we get to see ourselves in a different light, but always holding that light within us as we're here for a reason. Like we got to step into that power and that purpose. And, life will shake us. It'll try to knock us down. But again, that confidence and resiliency will get us back up, and we learn from everything. Taking care of your health, operating at your highest and best self. And I always say, if you're not at your best, you cannot serve the rest. And that was
Yeah.
something I had to recognize because I didn't prioritize my health and well being. But now it's one of the number one things that I do prioritize because, God, I mean, these past 6 months of my life, like, had I not had that foundation, I would be at a complete and utter loss. Like, what do I even do with myself? How would I even manage stress, sleep, nutrition, movement, like hydration, even? Looking forward to your future and setting that vision for yourself, you're embodying it. And so, this is your final year until that big 4-0. And I think that
Yeah.
you are doing an incredible job because this is something I had to do too. I mean, I'm few years older, but at that 39 mark, that
Hmm.
40 seems like a big tipping point. And if you don't have your stuff together then, when does it ever going to come together? And that's what I had a thought. It came to me, and that's when I decided to change things drastically.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. And I do think 40 is a big deal because it really, for some reason, feels like, how do I want to live this second part of my life? Every single thing leading up to, without putting too much pressure. I have full grace for myself, but like every single thing that I've learned up until now has created who I am. And what am I bringing with me into that next phase? And what am I leaving behind? What is no longer serving me? And I think one thing that I've really, just even in the last few weeks, been really meditating on, reminding myself of over and over is kind of like, what if the baseline is everything works out? What if the baseline is everything, like you are incredibly taken care of? Because trust me, I have imposter syndrome, and I the thing I struggle with the most is like, the people pleasing, thinking other people don't like. I still have that. It's so silly. Like, who cares? But I combat it with like the what if and then presenting like the best possible scenario. And I do that a lot when my anxiety comes up, like, and I don't even know what it will always be about, but I think presenting like, what if it all works out? What if today is a perfect day? What if the clients are completely happy, and because that worry would be like, what if the clients aren't happy? And it's like, but what if they all are? And so I found that the more that I cultivate that voice in me, the more it sideswipes those thoughts faster, and those thoughts don't even have a chance to take flight. And that's been a game changer for my mental health and my happiness. So yeah, thanks for having me on. This has really been a wonderful conversation.
Yes, absolutely. How can they follow along with the works that you're doing and get involved?
Yeah, so Chrome City Creative Studio, you can find online. We're Chrome City at Chrome City CA on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Alex V. Ott. V is my middle name and Ott is my last OTT. My personal website is alexandriaott.com, where you can see an array of everything I do, from the blank table, my podcast Wild and Wise, as well as Chrome City Creative Studio.
Awesome. And of course, all that will be in the show notes below. So be sure to click and follow. And if today's episode resonates, let Alex know. Reach out to her and just let her know that this pulling back the curtain and just getting real and raw is what we're all about. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you for having me, Rachel.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Confident Woman Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thanks again for listening.